Fire.
I wanted to go over two things. And depth is something that kind of spans a lot of discussion in composition, but I wanted to do some demos and actually go to the art table and do a couple things. I wanted to first show you, or maybe second, show you ways that you can create depth with texture. And I've shown this before on my channel. I want to specifically bring them out here. And then I'm sure that we're going to talk about it, and I'll show you when we get to texture. But depth is a way to really create interest in your paintings. I have found that many times when I'm stuck in a painting, and I've mentioned this to a couple of those that have been sending their paintings in to me for review, that depth is an area that I think you could work on. Now, it's not something that is the first thing that I will mention for you to work on, because value and where you place your objects is a really important one. But depth can also help when you are trying to bring out like that final interest in a painting. You just want to make that final big splash on your painting to bring it home, basically. I mean, depth goes through a lot. When we talk about value, we talk about depth. But depth is something that you can create by adding layers and layers, and then there's a couple things I'm going to show you that you can do. One of them is called veiling. And I'll show you a couple paintings where I have done veiling. And veiling, basically, many artists call this, it's basically covering up areas. Sometimes you cover it all the way. Sometimes you cover it so you can see underneath. It's a way to give the eye a path to go through your painting. I don't want to get too technical on this because it can become overwhelming, but I do want to show you, I have some little studies that have a lot going on. And after I show you some examples of paintings that I use the veiling technique, I'm going to show you how to actually veil in a couple little studies. And it's something that you can just practice with if you've never done it before. So let's jump into a couple examples, and then we'll go over to the art table and I will show you how I veil on some of these samples. And it's kind of like you decide where you want to put the veiling, which is kind of covering. And it's like a flux back and forth. You're going to veil some areas, then you may scrape some of that off and pull some of the painting back. It's just a back and forth. Once you start to do veiling on your painting, it really starts to, you start to get it. I've done veiling in different colors. I'm going to show you veiling in white. Titanium white paint is what I'll use because that's the easiest concept. And then we'll jump into all the samples of texture, which you can create depth in your paintings with the texture, because I didn't want to let this chapter of texture go by, or depth go by, without bringing in this. So let me show you some examples and talk you through it first of all. All right, so here are some examples of veiling. This one is an example of a very light veiling. You can see some of the kind of like the milky white areas where I've watered the titanium white down to veil back some of the color. And so veiling doesn't have to be totally white to cover everything up. It can be a little translucent, and what that does is just makes that lower right hand corner, the rough texture, just pop, and it helps with the collage pop and the writing. So here's another example coming up of veiling done very lightly. The upper right hand corner, that veiling was done a lot thicker. And then the left hand side, you see the veiling over here done with, again, very watery. It was done with like a spatula or like a utensil that just blocked in some areas, and I even let the water drip on that. So that just emphasizes that big black mark, and then the unusual drippings around the painting, and then the gold writing at the bottom. So veiling, if it's done in a couple different ways, either total veiling, total blocking things out, or a very thin layer, can be absolutely beautiful. This is an example of where I veiled almost the entire painting. This is a 24 by 36. It's called Truth Written in Her Diary. This painting I'm really proud of. It's actually was sold to an interior decorator through a gallery, and it's in a residency right outside Buckingham Palace. And I was really proud of that. And if you look at it closely, there's some very light writing done on top of the veiling. It's kind of like a diary type writing. So let's go over to the art table and let's do some veiling and show you some thick and some more translucent watered type veiling. All right, you're going to hear my cat Diva, and she's not ready to be fed yet, but she's like 18 and she gets a little temperamental and very bossy. So if you hear her, she's okay. She's just a loud talker. So here's some just sample little paintings I did. They're not near finished, but they were just warm-up type exercises. But this would be a good example if you have a painting like these and you say, you know, there's too much going on here. So you can either take like titanium white, and I always have huge tubs of titanium white. And I have this catalyst here, and we're going to just go in and we're going to look at this here, and we're going to say, what do we really want to emphasize? And veiling is basically just knocking back some of what's going on in the painting. And I'm doing a full veiling on this, and I'm not thinking about it for the demonstration because I want to show you the concept. So these may not be like beautiful paintings in themselves, but you can do that, and then you can also scrape back some of it back so you can actually see underneath some of that. And then on top of that, while you're playing with it, is when you can add in, you know, some additional marks on top of that. And then again, you can veil some of that back again. So veiling is basically maneuvering. It's like a flux of back and forth. It's adding depth to your painting. Say you wanted to continue this black mark here because you liked it and you want to continue it off the painting. Now that's not as dark of a color that I used, which is sometimes kind of nice. It's a difference. I'm gonna veil that back. So that's what veiling is. Now you can also veil. I'm going to put a little bit of white paint here. I'm going to get a brush and make this watery. Okay, and I'm going to take some of the veiling. So on this one, say we wanted to veil here. Look how light that is. You can actually see through it. And that was the one example I showed you. There were two paintings where I veiled and I just did swatches like that on it. And so there's a purpose for veiling. And like I said, I'm not making these into beautiful paintings. It's the concept of veiling these for you. Now, you can also go in and wipe back. Some you could do it with a baby wipe, or you could do it with, like I'm doing, just a paper towel. Again, you could go in with your marks again on the top, and then veil again. There's a thicker veil. So I hope you get the idea of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about veiling. And this is at the point you could go in with some pieces of collage and build the depth up there. But you're starting, and there's definitely a lot of different colors you could put in here. I mean, I'm not adding a lot of color to this. I'm just doing basic white and adding pencil and marks back into it. But this basically changed what the painting looked like. Could I bring some of that blue back? Yes. I could go back in and grab some of the blue paint. Here's a indigo. This is going to be a lot darker. So I added a lot of a darker color there. So you get the idea. And here's another one down here. See, it's got a lot going on here. And so maybe I want this shape to be the shape I want you to see. Got some of that blue on there, which is okay. So I'm gonna knock some of that back. Maybe I want to lightly veil just part of that. Lightly veil part of that up there. And then I like the line. You can keep the continuous line going on. So I could bring this beige color back in and have that go through the painting. But that's what veiling is. Here's another painting. This one is very, very chaotic. Say I wanted to veil through this area here. I wanted to make it a light veil. So the eye is going to go over here. It still sees what's underneath over here. And I'm going to bring that line back through. But because I veiled this area here, the eye is going to come over here. And maybe I wanted to veil just one spot at the bottom. So that's what veiling is basically pushing back, adding depth to your painting. As you saw in those other paintings that I showed you, those lightly veiled and then thickly veiled are the different ways that you're going to create your paintings. So the next thing I wanted to show you is the texture cards. So let me get those for you. So adding depth to your paintings can be done, and you'll see me use a lot of these cards, and I'll go over this into much more detail when we get to texture. But these are like pumice gels. You've seen me do this when I've added, when I've done landscapes. I love adding texture with different types of mediums. Here's glass beads. This is really beautiful. They're like little tiny pearly beads. And this is ceramic stucco. And you can actually write on that. That would look beautiful as sand, as a texture. So you did a painting of the beach, very abstract painting of the beach. And you added some of that ceramic stucco. It looks like sand, very fine sand. Here's some fiber paste. Here's some textured sand. It got some paint on it. but you can actually paint these, or you can paint these before you add them to your painting. Here's acrylic ground for pastels, and then I wrote on it. Here's the modeling piece. One is regular modeling piece, one is flexible. The difference between the two is if you're going to be doing large paintings, let me just throw this in there. And with shipping today, and you love modeling paste, which I do, you're going to want to use the flexible because many times the person that wants the painting does not want to pay for a crate or the shipping. So some galleries or some collectors ask me to take it off of the canvas, off of the wooden rack, and so I will use flexible modeling paste, and that's all I buy now so that it will not crack. And as you know, the story, if you remember the story I mentioned about the painting that I got back from a gallery that sent it down to Miami, and the gallery has now decided they're going to go ahead and just reimburse me for the painting because it can't be fixed. And they broke the frame. Had they taken the painting, had I sent it off the, wooden frame, and then they sent it back off the wooden frame, if they had stretched it there, the painting more than likely wouldn't have gotten ruined. Here's some clear tar gel, and I don't think I've done a demo on this yet, but this is a very drippy. It's like makes a lot of drips all over the place. Of course, you can use gesso, and then the crackle paste. You've seen me use that. Look at this gold crackle paste. Isn't that beautiful? So these are other ways to add depth. Can you imagine adding depth? I've done a lot of demos on this one, especially when I've done abstract landscapes. And then you just add, if you add color into that, it just seeps down in the cracks. So this is an additional way that you can add depth to your paintings. I wanted to put this demo out there for you, so at least you've got something. But I encourage you to try some studies and then try your hand at veiling. And then when you get the courage, pull out some larger paintings that have a lot going on and try your hand at putting some veiling through, some of these.